Alrighty guys, I am extremely disappointed in the tire choice that I made back in February of this year, or maybe March, when I got new tires for the ugly truck. At the time, I was lowering the truck and the tires and wheels that were on it were a little bit too tall. They were stock 2021 half-ton Silverado tires with a 265/65 18 on there. Love the look of the wheels, but the tires that I went with was a 275/45 18 Pirelli P0. I bought these on Tire Rack because they were on closeout. They're like 170 or 180 bucks a tire. And it's a 220 tread wear right there and traction AA. So in my incorrect thinking, I assumed that these would actually hook up pretty well. Now, the reason why I bought this particular size is because Nitto also makes a drag radial in the exact same size, 275/45. And my thought at the time was, well, I bought a set of 4, and then if I decided to switch to a drag radial, if these don't hook up, the tire size will be the same exact thing and we'll be good to go. But these particular Pirellis, they do not hook up at all with my particular combination. They may be a good tire for like a little sports car or something like that, but with my big, heavy, ugly truck that makes 900 pounds of torque at the tire, they obviously don't hook up. So in the last video that you guys saw, we kind of went out and we destroyed these tires. We did like 3 or 4 burnouts. And I did a handful more that you did not see. And each one of them wound up at the top of 3rd gear, pegging the speedometer on the rev limiter, so 120 miles an hour plus wheel speed doing a burnout. I think my longest one, I need to go measure it, was probably an honest 700 or 800 feet long, which it could have gone further, but by that time the truck's going so fast, it's like, let's just let out before anything crazy happens. But anyway, yeah, that took the tires from, let's see, that was what they look like, pretty much brand new. And actually, these were on the back for a minute. I'd spun those a couple times. But these ones took the brunt of the tread wear. And as you can see, pretty much there's not a lot left. Like there's a few grooves here and there. This groove was a little bit shallower through there. But the one thing I hate is how they have these little lips that form after you do just like absurd burnout. So what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna rotate the rear tires side to side, go do one quick wheel spin just to kind of cut off those little lips that form. And then these tires are gonna have to last me the rest of the summer. Now, granted, I do not daily drive this truck. It actually winds up sitting most of the time. And from here on out, anytime I go to a roll race or a drag race, I'm gonna bolt on my 15-inch ET Street R's that I have on the back. So that'll allow me to hook up and get traction whenever I want to go do some racing events. And these tires were pretty much just going to be rollers. And maybe, depending on how things turn out, I may put a drag radial on the back here, the same 275/45 18 size. But anyway, let's get these swapped around. And then the whole point of today's video is I want to give you guys an update on some really awesome new parts that just came out for the 8.1. So the reason why I put it on the ramps is just because this truck is so low and the bumper sticks kind of out so far. It's just about impossible to get the floor jack under it with it on the ground. So they're just about at the wear bars. Luckily there's no cords showing, so these will at least be okay to go the rest of the summer. All we gotta do, I want to get rid of that because I don't like it. No other reason. Also, quick update, I guess, on the 1320 rear 15-inch brake conversion. The truck still stops amazingly well, but the only problem is I bought cheap AutoZone brake pads. This thing makes a ton of brake dust, so I'm gonna get those swapped out at some point. But at least as far as stopping power goes, even with the slightly smaller rotor, this thing still stops amazingly. Also, I wanted to ask you guys what you think about those Harbor Freight Daytona floor jacks. I want to get a second jack. This is a Craftsman I've had forever. I've seen a lot of guys use the ones from Harbor Freight. No idea, so let me know how they actually work if you have one, because I am curious. So we'll hold off on doing burnouts just for a little bit, but by the time the video is over, we will get around to correcting that uneven tire wear problem that we're experiencing on the back end of this truck. So don't worry, we'll get to that. But first, I want to show you guys this brand new intake manifold that we just got in for the 8.1 Vortec. And the reason why I'm so excited and why this is so significant is because this project has been probably 5 or 10 years in the making, from the conception all the way through mock-up and modeling and production and prototypes. And so we finally have a production version that's ready, and I think I have the very first one. But the cool thing about this is towards the middle or end of August, these should be available for purchase at Raylar, and I'll put the link down in the description below. So the Gen 7 big block, just kind of a little background, I guess, was produced between like 2000 and 2007, somewhere in there. It's an 8.1 liter, 496 cubic inch engine. People often call this the big block LS. Although it really doesn't share any parts with the actual LS, it's closer to a Gen 6 big block. And it does have LS electronics in there, and it sort of looks like one, with a forward-facing throttle body and stuff like that. But in reality, it's not an LS. Raylar has supported the 8.1 platform for a very long time, and they're pretty much the only name in the game when it comes to buying something for an 8.1. Every other domestic V8 that's been produced over the last 20 to 30 years has a huge, huge aftermarket support. I mean, if you're talking like the Gen 6 or the Mark V big blocks, the old school Gen 2 small block Chevys that have been around since the 50s, you can buy practically anything for those motors. And even the LS Gen 3s, the Gen 4s, the Gen 5 LT direct injected engines, you can buy anything you want for those. Even in the, the Dodge and Chrysler realm, you've got the Hemis, you've got the older Magnums, you can buy a ton of stuff for those. And even the Ford 2, 3, and 4 valve modular V8s and the Coyotes, again, you can buy anything you want for those. But the 8.1 big block Chevy, there just haven't been a lot of great options other than Raylar. You can still build most everything that you need. I mean, they have aftermarket crankshaft. That's what we're going to be running in our 535. I got my PSI block through Raylar. There's all kinds of great options, but the intake manifold has been the last piece of the puzzle. Now, the stock one that's on here has an extremely long runner, and I may be misquoting here, but I believe it's somewhere around 19 to 21 inches long, which is part of the reason why this engine produces so much low-speed torque. I mean, this thing, even with a turbo, makes 900 pounds of torque at around 4,000 RPM, I think. So the engine was designed with towing and hauling in mind. It was designed for boats and RVs and delivery trucks and pickup trucks, something that just spends a lot of time at a middle-of-the-road engine speed hauling a ton of weight. Now, that's not what we're doing with our engine. We are building this for a high-performance application. I mean, that's why we've got an 80-millimeter turbo on here. We've got ourselves everything pretty much set up so we can dump in our new engine with all of our existing other stuff and make all kinds of power. And I want to turn this thing probably 6,500 or maybe a touch more in terms of RPM. But until today, I haven't had a great solution for the intake manifold. You can modify the stock truck intakes. There's a 55 millimeter opening past the throttle body, which is a major restriction. So until now, what guys have done is they'll flip the intake manifold upside down. I'll show you on the prototype. But basically what they'll do is they will cut the bottom off. They will take it out. There's a baffle or a shelf that kind of comes halfway back. They'll cut that open. They'll port the inside of the intake. But even with doing all that, you still can't really change the length of the runner. You can't change the characteristics of the manifold, but you can make it flow just a little bit more. So part of the reason why the Raylar intake is so cool, again, I might be misquoting the numbers, but I'm pretty sure they said the runner was probably 3 to 5 inches shorter, which is going to help this thing produce more higher RPM power. So that'll help perfectly accentuate the cylinder heads, the camshaft, you know, stuff like that that we're putting together on our 535. Because this thing has a cam that measures in at like 258, 263 at 50 thousandths. It's got 700 thousandths of lift. We get a cylinder head that flows just about 400 CFM. So we're going to have ourselves a pretty nasty big block, and I plan on putting this thing together naturally aspirated at first, if I can find a good set of headers. And then we'll do a direct comparison test between the two intake manifolds, because I love doing dyno shootouts, and I want to find out exactly how much power this new Raylar intake is going to be worth. But before we get to that, I got to show you guys the intake. It is my honor to present to you guys the world's very first cast aluminum new Raylar intake manifold for the Gen 7 8.1 liter big block. Now, if you just look at this thing, the first thing that stands out is how much cooler it looks than the original intake manifolds that were on these trucks. I mean, this one, it looks like an LS pretty much, which just further lends to the whole big block LS mystique, where this one, I mean, it's got a lot of these like unneeded bumps and casting marks, and you know, it's just kind of an ugly intake, where the Raylar one, it looks so much cooler. They've got their nameplate on top. I probably will have this powder coated. I'm going to do a lot of powder coating under the hood when we put our new engine in, but I like how clean and sleek it looks. But the looks isn't why you replace an intake manifold. You replace it because it performs better. And this one has a shorter runner. It flows more CFM. It has a bigger throttle body opening, but it still accepts all the stock stuff that you'll need, like, you know, the stock fuel rails, the stock injectors, the stock evap solenoid. It has the provisions for the EGR, the NPT port in the back here for like the brake booster, the map sensor. Again, fuel rails and lines and all that stuff will bolt right on. Even your existing oil fill tube will go in there. This does have a 4-bolt flange on it instead of the older style 3-bolt, but that's okay because, you know, the throttle body I'm going to be putting on there is a bigger 90mm version. I will have to do, because I have a drive-by cable where most 8.1s are drive-by wire, I might have to build another bracket for my throttle cable, but not a big deal at all. That's all part of engine swaps and hot rodding. But let me know down in the comments what color you think we should go on this build. I'm traditionally like low key. I like how the Copo truck looks with the wrinkle black powder coat. So I might sort of do a similar theme where, you know, we'll do like the compressor cover, the polish tube here, the intake manifold valve covers. Everything I think will probably be kind of like low key wrinkle black, and then possibly like a gray or titanium Cerakote on all the hot stuff. But anyway, yeah, really pumped to get that Raylar intake on there. If you want one, give those guys a call. Like I said, I think he told me they would be ready for purchase by the end or middle of August of this year. And I'm so pumped because, yeah, we could have modified the stock intake, and Raylar does that as well. But for a high performance application, this is like the way to go. So I do feel like this new intake is going to be worth a fair amount of power, especially on the engine that we've put together, because we get a cylinder head that flows almost 400 CFM, a Raylar, good set of heads on there. We get a big camshaft, 535 cubic inches at 65 or 600 RPM. This engine is going to move some air, and we are going to do a dyno test, NA to NA, to figure out exactly how much horsepower this new intake manifold is going to be worth over stock one, because like I said, I feel like it's going to be a pretty healthy gain. In terms of overall numbers, I'd like to make, you know, at least 600 wheel on this big block. We make 580 wheel on 13 pounds on the stock engine, so that's a pretty big jump considering naturally aspirated, but I feel like we can do it. I don't know, that's a ways to go. You guys will see every step along the way, and I can't wait to get started on the build. But first, we still got ourselves a perfectly running turbo big block truck. It's a beautiful day. It's not quite as hot as it has been in the past, a little bit cloudy here in Utah. So let's go fix these tires. objective here is not to completely destroy what little rubber we have left. Just gonna kind of clean them off, take off those little hooks. That ought to do it. You guys have no idea how hard it is not to do that every single time I take off from a stoplight. It is so effortless to destroy those tires. But not today. So that will bring this video to an end, and I gotta say thanks for watching to the end. I am so pumped about this new intake manifold and the whole big block project in general. It's gonna be awesome. I'm a little bit scared of the truck, to be honest. Like, you know, if we do make our goal of 1,500 horse, it's gonna be a handful. And yeah, we do have a lot of, one thing you guys do ask me about a lot is safety stuff, like, you know, drive shaft safety loops and a roll cage, you know, weight reduction. We do have to do a lot of that because I do have a goal of a, you know, mid to low 8-second truck. So we got a lot of work to do to make that happen, a lot more changes, but yes, in terms of safety and suspension, we do have a lot of changes that we need to make. But that being said, I am excited and looking forward to the process. Check out Raylar if you need anything for your 8.1. They got a whole bunch of cool stuff, cylinder heads, camshafts, rotating assembly parts. They can build you anything you want, mild to wild, or supply the parts to do it. And that's going to bring this video to an end. So thank you for watching. I am going to go cruise this truck just a little bit more because why not? It's the perfect day for it. I am going to resist the temptation to blow the tires off because we are like right on the ragged edge of going from a tiny bit of tread to cords showing. So we're not going to do that. We're going to enjoy the truck. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Subscribe if you haven't already. We are trying to reach 100,000. That's like my major milestone. I want to make it happen before the end of this year. And with your help, I know we can do it. So, we'll catch you again soon. I'm going to hop on a plane and go find that Toyota.